given the freedoms by people, and you need to be able to respect that. Okay, all right, so here again, we have the same stuff happening as far as our intervals and our number of students. Okay, so I've got the midpoint of everybody. You can see the bars up underneath it in there where I'm tracing, and I just have to connect the dots. So straight lines, have you ever seen a curved line? I don't know why I said that. Straight lines, it's an oxymoron. Lines connect the dots in order as you come from left to right.
Segments.
They are actually segments, you are right. Geometry. Okay. Now, it's a little bit harder to see that that's leading us towards a normal curve distribution, but the concept is very similar, right? The concept is very similar. If you're trying to imagine the normal curve distribution, if you know anything about it, the way it's shaped, taking this idea of connecting things together leads us towards being able to superimpose what would be considered a best fit of a curve to all of that. This is not a curve. These are just segments, okay? Everything's straight. Curve obviously very smooth and has a curvature to it. So you're getting there. Now, just a technicality here, mathematicians do not like to have frequency polygons floating. That's what that's called. It's like they'll just float away. So you have to tie it down like this. And there is no magical way to tie it down. How did I pick where I was going to tie it down to? It just needs to be tied down.
Would you include your intervals? I was just like.
Yeah, I would need to put my numbers here, and I didn't. Just to finish it up, okay? Now, the really cool thing for you guys is that you will not have to draw a frequency polygon. You will not have to draw a bar graph. You will not have to do any of that. What you will have to be able to do is look at a set of data. Okay? And use technology, obviously, to create it for you if you need it. And just kind of look at it. I mean, is it looking like it's normal? Okay? And really, at the end of the day, in education with what we do, the assumption that it is normal is what we want to do. And leave it at that. You don't have to get into the ideas of whether this truly is normal or not when we're analyzing data in our classroom. Now, on the final exam, I'm going to expect you to understand the normal curve and its, it can be changed to where you don't have it actually normal. It's going to be called skewed. Then we'll talk about that, but in your classroom, you're going to assume that it is normal. Now, this one looks fairly good. You know, we could see, if I tell you that the normal curve looks like this, you know, it fits it pretty well. We've got this big rise right here, a little bit of a peak right there, or a spike, and again at the end. But it looks pretty decent. So for us to assume normality here probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. Okay? All right? But when we talk about the normal curve, and I've sat here and talked about it a lot, what I'm talking about is a symmetrical distribution bell curve. It has a nice peak top and then reflects itself on the other side. Okay. Right. It is not tied down. Alright? So it's symmetrical. And what I mean by symmetrical is just if you were to divide this thing in half, it's got symmetry on the left and right. Okay, so it's a symmetrical distribution, so this is our normal curve, and it's symmetrical. Alright, so that's what would be practical for you in a classroom, is to assume that your data for your students, without even drawing a frequency polygon, would be symmetrically distributed. Now, I want you to know that it never is. No data is ever symmetrically distributed. It may be real close, and if it does happen, it's not gonna happen again. I mean, that's just a freak coincidence, okay? There's always gonna be at least one data point that's gonna throw things off from it being normal, okay? It's just, this is not real world, not ideal, but we're gonna assume that it is when we're sitting in our classroom and we're trying to analyze data, okay? All right, let me point out to you the other ways that things can happen. If it's not perfect, like if you actually wanted to look at your data and draw the frequency polygon, draw the bar graph, and then look at it, it may not look like that. It may look like this. You may have more scores that happen, you may have more scores that happen on the low end, okay? And less scores that happen on the high end. So imagine your bars over here on the low end being very high, and then maybe no bars at all over here on the high end. Or maybe they're just very low, very short, okay? They don't go up very much. So you might see a distribution that would look like this. It's got a lot of high stuff. So it's like leaning over to the left, because there's more stuff that happened on the low end. Now, it's skewed, okay? S-K-E-W-E-D. Skewed, okay? What do you think it is? Do you think that's positively skewed or negatively skewed? What would you say?
Negatively.
Yeah, I'd say negative too. But it's not that. It's the opposite of what you'd think. Because the word skewed in this case means messed up. What got messed up? Stuff on the positive end got messed up. There's not as much of it. There's not as much of the positive stuff. There's more negative stuff, like low stuff. So this is actually what you would call a distribution that is positively skewed. If this is your low scores, and they're bad, like you think negative, and these are your high scores. In your classroom, if you got a distribution that looks something like that, then you would say that it is positively skewed. Because skewed means messed up. On the positive end, it's messed up. Okay? And then of course you can see, like if you flip that thing around and you had more stuff on the high end and less stuff on the low end, that you'd call negatively skewed. Okay, so just go ahead and draw that just to be consistent here. Any questions about that? It's backwards of what your brain would say. It's like shifting it around to the right or the left. Add something. Shifts it to the left. No, that's good. Okay, so negatively skewed. You get more stuff. High end. It looks like it's leaning to the right. Okay? Looks like it's leaning to the right. So our low stuff is here. We don't have as much of it. We've got a lot of high stuff. The low stuff got skewed. The negative end got skewed. Alright? Questions?